Good morning. It's got about 7 minutes here until open. Go to the dollar. So as you can see on the dollar, this is that 4-hour fair value gap I was talking about. Let me go to 4-hour. And we made all the way to the top of it, and look at the bodies on the 4-hour, respecting it perfectly. It's a little annoying. I kind of wish that they poked outside, just because then I would feel more comfortable claiming that we're going above it. But since these bodies respecting it so well, I'm not going to make that claim yet. As you can see, we're above this daily inefficiency on the daily. So I am kind of expecting us on the 4-hour. I want to see if we respect this. It looks like you can see we came up closed above that daily efficiency on the 4-hour. So it's kind of weird because I am describing, yeah, no, it's not weird. Lower time frame is coming up above this higher time frame, and now we're respecting the higher time frame on the lower time frame. So I am kind of expecting this high to be taken out. It's the if this then that is if the 4-hour rallies off of this inefficiency. I'll be looking to see if we take that high, and if we take that high, we'll probably continue higher. If the 4-hour does not find support along this daily fair value gap and goes lower, then I think we'll be targeting new lows. It is a pretty tight range, so it's good to see. It's a Friday. We're up on this Friday. We're up on the week. If you've been watching the live streams, I think the other day we should have got a win here. I'll let you go back and watch those videos, but should be up a little more, but I'm not going to force anything. Closing out the week. I'm not going to force anything to close out the week. Especially because the markets this week, I think they're cleaning up, but they've been a little like discoupled. I feel like every day I'm just talking about how ES and NASDAQ aren't kind of printing. And it's interesting because ICT talks about how there's this like window of time where he just doesn't trade anymore, and it's like mid-November to I think the first week in February he just doesn't trade. And he's like made comments about how like price isn't the best. He's also made comments just because you can still find trades, but it's not the best, and he just prioritizes his family during that time because it's holiday season. But I think we're starting to see exactly why, because I'm sure if the markets were dialed in, he'd still want to be over that. So here we have NASDAQ. So yesterday I talked about how NASDAQ, if we close below this daily fair value gap, I would want to see it come up and act as support. But again, you need to wait and see what the London session does. So I think the London session just blew right through it. So we don't even have to think about that. And if you look at ES, I didn't compare. I didn't look at ES yesterday at the close, so I made that little mistake there. That fair value gap, daily fair value gap on ES, we are finding support at it. So I think we're going higher. NASDAQ came down and closed below it. If you can see, yeah, that's just the structure on NASDAQ and ES are not perfectly the same, but I like on NASDAQ. So we came through this daily fair value gap, but what are the inefficiencies in this consolidation of price? We have, this order block, this little propulsion block. So I measured out the high to low, including the wicks of these two down close candles. I think this is the parent order block, but these are nested inside of that. And you can see we came down to the mean threshold of those two candles very nicely. And then I guess propulsion block, appropriately named, it sent us flying. So this is a 4-hour chart for NASDAQ. I like how we're above this daily fair value gap. I think I don't really want to see it. If we do come down at all, I'll be looking, see right here how this hourly or kind of like 4-hour order block starts right at the consequent encroachment. So that'll be a nice level if we retrace. I don't think we're going to retrace, but if we do, I'll be watching that. I think with watching how aggressively it came up off of these lows, I really think it's gonna kind of shoot for these highs today pretty quickly. So I'm gonna be expecting that. But again, like I said, we're like 1 to 2 trades away from getting this account out of the drawdown. So I don't want to risk anything. I don't want to push it when we don't have to. We have come a long way, so I won't just enter off any old fair value gap. That's not my style, but I'm hoping we maybe find, a consolidation before we go higher. NASDAQ and ES are looking pretty similar in that sense where they've, I don't want to use the term overextended, but they haven't had much pullback. I guess ES a little more on the 5-minute. Up, down. Yeah, so I think this high on both ES, if we were looking at the 15-minute, this 15-minute swing high, this hourly, it's kind of hourly changing the state of delivery. I don't want to see price kind of start closing below that. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we came back down and like touched it, but I want it to kind of react off of that almost as a what's the word for it? I'm blanking on the word. It's like the breaker, but when it doesn't, it's not the low high lower low. It's the low high and it fails. Blanking on the name. It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyways, yeah, that high for both NASDAQ and ES. I think. And is it a? Yeah, I think it's. Let's check the low. The low of this is 15,207.25. This low is 15,207.75. So this came lower by 2 ticks than that. So it kind of got this low, high, lower, low. You can see on the 15-minute, we're dropping into that fair value gap at the open, which on the 5-minute is also a fair value gap. Not surprised there. It looks like, so we don't have anything for like a 2022 model, a real clean 2022 model. So again, like I said, that's what we trade between 9:30 and 10. If you haven't watched the kind of introductory video of this channel, so probably wait for the opening range. Looks like we're gonna have a pretty big opening range gap. And when we do have that, what we want to see oftentimes is, so I do like to target the opening range gap. That's a big, I like that strategy, like targeting, say, to the bottom of it. But if we're expecting higher prices, like I've been talking about how all week on the higher time frame we're looking for these highs, then what we want to see is it come, maybe touch it and leave it. We want it to show like a real sensitivity to leave that gap. If we start kind of like spending some time in it, then we have to consider, okay, maybe price doesn't want to take these as aggressively as we thought. So and sometimes it is important. I set it up on the 5 minute a lot just because it's easier and quicker, but sometimes it is important to go down to exactly the 1 minute to make sure you have the 1 minute levels, because this happens on the new week opening gap sometimes too. If you don't get the exact levels, it won't really tell a different story, but if you're like looking at like the close, see for example, like if you don't have the exact level, then maybe these bodies don't show you that they're closing in the range. But might not have explained that too well. It'll just throw off your like minutia of reading. Like, are we wicking to the high, exactly to the high, or are we wicking over it? It's like, okay, so since we're definitely not trading the opening range because it's not given a 2022 model setup, I'm going to yeah, like you can see on ES, we're coming down to that high. I'm hoping we see some sensitivity around there. It looks like it's about 50% of the opening range gap. Yeah, so we'll see how we respect that level on ES. Okay, yeah, here's an example of why trading's been kind of hard coming into this November month. You can see. No. Oh wait, yeah, there's not that. ES I think was making a lower low right there. Yeah, look at this open. You have higher high. Well, I guess it's higher high on both, but look how low ES is. It's coming down and like breaking this low, whereas Nasdaq's still up here. Nasdaq's above its opening range gap. ES is about consequent encroachment of its opening range gap. So this like is an opening range that's very like hard to trade, because what can be happening right here is this can run up and just like take liquidity. Like a breakout trader could get really screwed on this move. I mean, it could also be right, but the probabilities are now not in our favor. So like we could react. See, the body's respecting 50% of this opening range, so we could send it higher off of that. And ES is just the lagger behind Nasdaq, but just be really weary when you see the markets behaving like this, because they're not in sync. I like how we didn't take this low on NASDAQ. Makes it seem like we just came down to fill in that inefficiency. So we filled in this inefficiency, came back up. Let's see. I like what ES is. I like the chance of ES to the upside, because if ES breaks this swing high, I think it will provide us a lot more confirmation. And then we can use that also as a 5-minute breaker. So I like that. And again, look how nicely our candle bodies respected the consequent encroachment of this opening range gap. We'd be above the new week opening gap. I really like, yeah, I like the setup on ES a little more. I'd want to make sure NASDAQ is also continuing higher. Oh yeah, NASDAQ's pumping. Cool. We have high impact news at 10. So understand that. I don't know. I've been kind of liking playing NASDAQ lately, but I feel more comfortable on ES. NASDAQ's been nice though, because I feel like when the trades are there, it's a little more low resistance, just because it fluctuates so quickly. So we can get 10 handles a lot quicker than we can get ES's 5. But that can also work in the other way. Okay, so this is also, you can also call this, like, you can get that little 5-minute breaker structure on NASDAQ. I kind of like the way it looks on ES a little more. Yeah. Let's see. So I'm going to expect us to come up, close above this high, and then we can kind of call out this breaker structure when that happens, and then probably find an entry, depending on how aggressively we close above this high, an entry coming down and touching the top of the breaker, maybe an entry coming down, touching the top of the opening range gap. This is all, assuming that we come up this high, but NASDAQ is completely, NASDAQ sending it. So I feel like NASDAQ could even also come down and touch the top of this. That's kind of getting back to that thing where I'm telling you how the swings in NASDAQ versus ES are a little different. I'm not used to how NASDAQ ebbs and flows. So when I watch it run this much, since I'm not too used to NASDAQ yet, I don't know the probability of it coming down back to a level like that. And that's just kind of getting to know the market you're in, but at the same time, like, look how high NASDAQ is compared to ES. It gets to a point where it's a little too much to call it an SMT divergence, and it's like these markets just aren't printing the same. Yeah, because ES hasn't even broke that high. I think it should have done it by now. I'm wondering if, like, NASDAQ takes these highs on the 1 hour, I would be shocked if ES did not get at least close. And also, there isn't much in terms of inefficiencies right here. So that's a little worrisome for me when I don't see ES making that higher high. I'm just wondering if, there is a chance that we could come down. It's just something to note when you don't have inefficiencies in a price delivery. Okay, yes, it's finally going. Again, probably gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until 10. For a second, got a little ahead of myself. But the rules of the channel are 2022 model between 9:30. And again, why are we not taking a 2022 model? Because I like to see swing highs on the 15-minute used as liquidity before I don't know if that's an ICT specific. Might have to go back and rewatch that series, but I know for me that's kind of like one of my own rules, and it's served me well. Guess, I don't know, maybe you could call that a swing high taken on the 15, but I'm all set. We have 10 o'clock news. Okay, so a candle wicking above this high is enough to constitute a shift in market structure. I want to see us come down and kind of use this area as support. You got a fair value gap, you have an order block, you have the top of the opening range gap for higher prices. Yeah, so like I said, fair value gap, little order block, top of the opening range gap. I want to see that support price for higher. Wouldn't be like bad as like an early entry, but again, with ES and NASDAQ kind of not behaving super in tandem, I'll wait for a little more confirmation just so we close out this week green. You can see on the daily, we took this low in the London session, so I like that idea of sending it higher. Yeah, see. I don't know which one I like more. I kind of would have liked it if yes respected this 1 minute structure, but on the 5 minute it looks fine for upside. Once we get above this down close candle, so this 5 minute down close candle can be acting as a 5 minute order block, and that's why like sometimes kind of like where's the example? This actually could be a really good. I think it looked pretty similar. Was it on NASDAQ? Yeah, so on this 4 hour, I'll remove it for a second. See this down close candle? Then you have the other down close candles nested inside of them. It's like having order blocks nested in each other. So you have this one, you can see, then these ones come down to that mean threshold. And then later on, these come down to this mean threshold. So you have this order block nested inside of that one. And I think for like the ES 5 minute, you could have something similar that's forming. So you have this down close candle. You have these two coming down, wicking over mean threshold, and then these ones are also going to could become an order block. Propulsion block. I think that's the more accurate term. Take all those off just for a moment to keep it clean. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just watching where these swing lows and how these swing highs form. So I'm like, where is this coming down to? Why is it coming down? Is it coming down to fill in an inefficiency? Where is it stopping? Is it stopping at, like the mean threshold of this candle? After we do come down and form a level like that, do we go and take one of the swing highs? Because if when it doesn't do that, that is that's something to note. When we make a swing low and come up, and we don't take how we treat that next swing high is important. So for example, right here, even on the 5 minute, we broke a swing low to the downside, but then we came up and broke one to the upside. So that would make me think we should be seeing higher prices. As you can see on NASDAQ, that 1 minute candle made a higher high, and now it's making a low on ES, so I don't like that. That's a red flag. But again, I'll be going into the 10 o'clock hour. As long as we don't take this low, I'll be looking. I think the draw on liquidity is to the buy side. To the buy side. See on the hourly, we came down, tapped the top of that. I would really like it if at the 10 o'clock news driver, it was like a big bullish candle upwards. But you can see NASDAQ looks like it's breaking a swing. ES is breaking that swing low. So definitely want a little more confirmation. And demand more information or nothing. I do like where we're at for ES, because if we get below this new week opening gap and take this swing low, then I think it's pretty clear that longs are out of the picture. So I do like scenarios like that where it's like, okay, well, if we break this, then it's like we're definitely not looking for longs. And we have a lot of like confluences to kind of support that. New week opening gap, opening range gap, significant swing low. Again, I'm paying attention to this swing low. It's a 5 minute swing, so it's a little more significant. I like upside. Let's see I want to see us close a candle above these highs and create a fair value gap. But let's see if that plays out. Because NASDAQ is looking like it's kind of topping. Again, remember, NASDAQ had that huge run up at the open, so it's just a lot, seems, I'm gonna go under the assumption right now that it's a lot more exaggerated, because if it wants to have a higher low to go higher, it's gonna have to come down deeper. Let's see what the dollar's doing. Dollar is going up. Okay, so we have an upwards dollar. So yeah, if we break this swing low, probably I think the bottom of the opening range gap is in play, especially with the dollar going up like that. Again, I am surprised that the dollar is kind of where it's at right now. And I think that just speaks to, we are in kind of a sideways market, even especially like for the dollar, we especially are. You might not say that on the indices, but I think because the dollar's been kind of sideways, we haven't seen super clean action on the indices. They're moving, but they're not super in sync. I'm interested to see how we close in respect to this 15-minute wick, where this 15-minute candle body closes in respect to it. Dollar's still going higher. For downside, there's nothing that I'm too excited about in terms of a setup. I think I liked the upside setup better. But the dollar is, with the dollar going up like this, I'm going to wait for more confirmation in the indices. And it's gonna be pretty notable if ES takes this swing low. Was it even a swing? It wasn't really. It's like kind of this swing on NASDAQ. But let's look at the 5-minute. Yeah, so here's the 5-minute, tells it better. This is the swing low on NASDAQ that started this price swing. And if we take it on ES and not on NASDAQ, that's just something to be aware of. Because remember, so we caught a pretty nice 2022 model yesterday at the opening range, but after 10 o'clock, yesterday's price was like, I don't think it was great. I think it was doing stuff that was hard to read that it really shouldn't have. And if this 10 o'clock hour is anything like yesterday's 10 o'clock hour, then like I'm okay with just not trading it. Okay, dollar. Dollar coming off a high. That high it took was pretty significant. That was the dollar's high of the day. And now we're coming off of it. I wonder if it was just a sweep of liquidity. I said NASDAQ could come back down to that opening range gap. Oh, I missed it just short. Looks like it did tap that like breaker structure. That low, high, lower low, top of this up close candle. You can see we came right to it. I'm watching how price responds to these up close candles. Again, price yesterday was doing things that I thought it shouldn't have done. So like one example was if we come up and take these highs, I would expect it to continue, not to turn around and go lower. But that's something that I felt like was happening yesterday as we were breaking like intermediate term swing highs and lows that I don't think we should have. Yeah, so you see we came up, wicked above that, broke lower, order block, fair value gap, come up, enter, order block, displace lower, come back up to this order block. But that's just 1 minute. These are just 1 minute candles, so I'm really waiting for some kind of break, either of this swing low or this swing high on the 5 minute, because then I'll be convinced of a direction. You can see us playing off the consequent encroachment, the opening range gap again. We have another 5 minutes until this 15-minute candle closes, and I think it could still get up above that consequent encroachment. Not if it breaks that low, but let's wait. Yeah, so just to be clear, I don't think it's super obvious the draw on liquidity right now. And the more you watch price, the more that you can, and the more the more you notice that what you think is happening happens, then you can realize when you don't know what's happening. I hope that made sense. It's like when you watch price enough and you realize, I think this is going to happen. Okay, it happened. I was right. You start to learn when you start to get more confident and like, okay, I understand what's happening now. And when you can identify when you understand what's happening, it can help you identify when you don't understand what's happening. And then when you don't understand what's happening, that's when you should just be sitting on the sidelines. Okay, dollar went high, low, lower high, making a low. Look at its 5 minute. You can see on the 5 minute, I know it's hard to see the dollar right here when I scrunch it up like that, but we came up and took all that London buy side in terms of the dollar, and I'm be curious if we start breaking structure on the 5 minute, because then I would say, yeah, this is a liquidity sweep. It kind of looks like it. You can see how aggressively we ran up. And then also, if the dollar, I don't think the dollar would want to be making, I don't think this is a higher low for a continuation higher on the dollar, because that would mean the indices are moving with the dollar because they've been going higher this whole time. So I like this idea of the dollar came up to take liquidity to send lower. I mean, you can actually frame it in exactly both ways. So that's kind of low probability if you can narrate both sides. I think the bull case for indices is the dollar came up, swept these highs, and is about to start making lower lows, and that's going to make the indices make higher highs. But the case right now too is we have a market structure shift on the dollar. This is a higher low, and it's about to, and this was the top of the day for the indices. So the dollar is making a higher low right now to then continue higher, which means the indices made its highs for today and is gonna continue lower. So you can kind of frame both sides right now, and because of that, it's best to just wait. So I'll be watching how the 5 minute candles respect this 5 minute wick, and also how this 15 minute candle will respect this 15 minute wick. We still have, we have like 20 seconds until this 15 minute candle closes. So it looks like it's probably going to close under this consequent encroachment. The dollar is going lower. Let's see. Let's just wait and see. Okay, so if you can see, this is the dollar, this yellow line in the background. It's the dollar 1 minute. So it looks like the dollar is making a swing low. I'm curious. So is this going to be that higher low to continue on to a higher high in the dollar, and then the indices drop? If we get below this swing low on the 5 minute, I'll like that downside narrative a little more. Again, there's also nothing in here yet that would have been a silver bullet. This is the only fair value gap right here, and I don't think it delivered. It did not. I know it didn't deliver because I measured it out. It has yet to deliver 5 handles to the downside. I guess like you could have like picked some random fair value gap over here and said that, one of these lows was 5 handles, but I wouldn't call that the silver bullet. I wouldn't call it a silver bullet because it's kind of a reach. You can't just find a random PD array and call it significant because we still don't really even know what the draw on liquidity is. We are still in this range of this low to this high. We made that dealing range right there, and we're in between it on the 5 minute. Tap it into that hourly order block. And also, if you look at this run right here, this was a lot of buy side delivery. So it makes sense that it would kind of want to retrace if it did want to make another leg up. Got a lot of buy side right here, come down to 50%. You have this order block, little order block right here that it crosses that 50% threshold. So I'll count it as like a PD array at 50%, even though, you know, price never came down below this line. This PD array was in the middle, so it came down to that PD array. That's the way I look at it. It's just a me thing. Okay, dollar. Dollar, you can still frame both until this 5 minute low or this 5 minute high gets broken. You can frame both sides. So you're gonna keep hearing me say that until we do one of those things. But as that happens, when one of them breaks, I will be looking at the dollar and seeing what it is doing to kind of confirm. Because one thing for SMT between the underlying asset and the benchmark is if we make a higher high, so the dollar made a higher high, but the indices make a higher low, so this is that higher low, that is a buy program signature. So I still like longs all the way up until this is broken. Like even right now, if the dollar comes down and breaks this and we see some aggressive upside candles, I'll be like, hell yeah, buy side. I will wait because look, once we get above this, even this 15-minute swing high, we still have a lot of room to our objectives. So we will find an entry. Don't feel like you need to enter before this swing high is taken. We have a lot of room. I like how all the 5-minute candles respected the consequent encroachment of that wick. Dollar didn't want to take that swing low. Nice. 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 Um, okay, I'm watching how the dollar, after making that new high, came down, made a swing low, another low, and now it's going back up. So on the 5 minute, these two lows probably make one just 5 minute swing low. Now we're going back towards the top. Yeah, that if we start targeting this swing high in the dollar, the indices will fall. Okay, yeah, there it is. Let's see how this candle closes. Dollar, see the dollar shooting higher. There's nothing right now that I'm like super interested in for downside trade. I want to see a little more. NASDAQ looks a little better for downside. Still just waiting. I don't think anything's really jumping off the charts right now. Could. This is there, but I think this could pan out. I'm not too interested in it. Because like I'm looking at the higher time frame, and again, I want to take a trade that's more in line with my higher time frame narrative, just because I could see that, like, I think my higher time frame narrative could help catch the daily range. So like you'll catch like more of the direction of the daily candle print. It's not bad. You target down to the new week opening gap high. See the body, respect consequent encroachment. Dollar looks like it's about to make a new high of the day. So why did I call out this fair value gap specifically? Because that fair value gap was part of this 1 minute candle right here, was part of the 5-minute candle that shifted 5-minute market structure. So I think like if you saw retracement, I feel like that one could be allowable, this fair value gap, but I definitely say the stop should be at this high. But that's kind of the reason why I didn't care too much about anything in this, because it was pretty clear that this was like more like time distortion, like it was just waiting, versus I liked this one because this 1 minute candle was part of this 5-minute candle that shifted this market structure. And I think, yeah. If you entered on the low, I think it's important to watch how this candle prints below this swing low. Does it print heavy once we get below it, or does it wick below it? Does it, not get heavy and completely turn around? Because think of price a little more fractally, like on the 1 minute, on lower time frames, lower than the 1 minute, like the 15 and the 30-second, this is a retracement up to send price lower. So and on the 1 minute it shows it in a lot less candles, but in theory when we get below this low, you want that to be a price leg lower, versus if we take that low and then we kind of come back, that could be concerning. I'm not saying it can't come up and tap into this fair value gap one more time and go lower, but for like nice low resistance liquidity runs, you'd want to see it, come up, tap, respect consequent encroachment, and then leave and continue to the liquidity. And to note, so this on NASDAQ is now like wicking into the top of its opening range gap, whereas ES is at the bottom of its opening range gap. So keep that in your mind. And also one thing, in terms of not taking this short, again, like on the 15-minute and the hourly, like this drop right here could just be a higher low. Because you can see we made this high, low, higher high. We had a lot of upside, and just a retracement to 50%. If I can frickin' get it to 50%, to then have another leg higher, possible. Yeah, so I just want to take, especially, like I said, again, end of the week, we're already green. I'm only going to really take trades that are in line with my higher time frame narrative. See, the dollar came up, couldn't break that high. Couldn't take that high. Now it's going lower. See, when you're down here, when price is down here, you can kind of feel like, oh, did I miss out on a trade? And then 2 minutes later, you can completely flip and be, oh, I'm kind of glad I didn't take that trade. But still, I still think it can go down 5. I think the fact that this candle stopped short of the top of this candle is significant. Looks like it came right up and touched consequent encroachment perfectly. And then you saw this displacement. You can see on NASDAQ that retracement was all the way up into a volume imbalance. You can see the bodies respected. Even the wick came right up to the top of that body and reversed. Okay, I'm curious. I'm gonna stay on. I'll finish off 10 o'clock. I want to see if this 10:50 to 11:10 macro time gives anything interesting. I think I'll just stick to holding out for upside. I mean, I'm definitely not gonna want to short this close to the top of the new week opening gap. Yeah, I don't really see any short plays. That's the silver bullet though. I'll count it. Delivered 5 handles. You had this one up here. I don't think that one was as obvious. I think this one would have been the smarter move because you had the 5-minute break-in structure. Whereas up here, you didn't have that yet. But you did have the 1-minute break consolidation. You had the 1, 2, 3 highs, 3 drives before breaking lower. I bet if you looked on like a 30-second chart, this little price fractal right here would have made this entry look a lot nicer. It would have looked a lot nicer on like a lower time frame than the 1 minute. So I'm watching. Price came up. Couldn't take that high. Came down lower. So I'm really interested because whatever happens next, if it goes and breaks this swing low, it's going to be a lower low. Versus if it comes up and takes this high, I'll probably take that high. Wait for this 10:50 to 11:10 macro. There has been some days, and one of the people who was watching kind of called it out, and he was completely right, and I didn't really take the time to notice it, because a lot of times when we're like this deep into 10 o'clock, if I'm like trading, before I was live streaming my trading, I would just kind of like log off, just be like, yeah, wasn't there. And then somebody was like, yo, you should wait for the 10:50 macro, and I was like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. And then I looked back, and on some of the days where I like logged off early because I was like, yeah, there's nothing there, it was at 10:50 that like we might have like, for example, like completely reversed on this, and there was a nice entry during this macro time. So that's good. I'm also starting to notice my stamina for live streaming is building up. Usually by 10:40, narrating myself got pretty exhausting, and I'm starting to get used to it. Watching the dollar. Yeah, I think we'll deliver to the bottom of this opening range gap unless we get like a really aggressive price to the upside. I'm gonna look at NASDAQ. Yeah, see, NASDAQ's just like not even wanting to enter into it, and it's a hard market. It's a hard market to read. Because NASDAQ is still looking kind of bullish. ES is telling a different story. If we get up and close above this fair value gap, I like that. Close, I want to close. Okay, cool. What time is it? 10:48. Let's go. Okay, if we come up and take this high and close, that's a 5-minute swing high. And I will like upside. Choosing that swing high because we have this fair value gap here. And I could see it wanting to go into there to send it lower, but I think if we get up above this swing high, then there's really not much of a bear case that you can make. Dollar, I want to see it start to make some lower lows. Again, this is I'm going to wait until we're above this order or this fair value gap. See NASDAQ. NASDAQ poked above that swing high with the wick. So, interesting. Let's see if it respects this fair value gap at all to the upside. Dollar looks like it wants to make another high. I don't know. Dollar's going sideways. This whole 10 a.m. hour. And if you zoom up, the dollar's going. If you zoom out, the dollar is going higher. So that's why I wanted to wait for this 5-minute swing high, because if you zoom out, the dollar's really going up. And this entry, might be people that are taking this short. Okay. Looks like that one candle crossed over consequent encroachment. Candle body closed outside. Second candle came down, did the same exact thing. Candle body could be closing outside. Both of these bodies respected that as an inversion. Let's see if it wants to expand off of it. And this is one of those reasons. So we have two PD arrays right now that's why you have, if you just focus on like what PD arrays is price respecting to try and find the direction, it's not a good way to go about trading, because you can see two right on top of each other. Oh, we respect consequent encroachment. We could be going down. Well, we came down, respected consequent encroachment, could be going up. So like that's why you need to pick your PD arrays after you've picked your draw on liquidity, not vice versa. So I like the buy side for the draw on liquidity. So I'm gonna, I'll watch to see how it behaves to bearish PD arrays, but I'm more interested in is the bullish PD arrays supporting my narrative? Are the bullish PD arrays supporting my idea of the draw on liquidity? And is the dollar working with me? Things like that. Again, waiting to see us close above this fair value gap. I want to see us take this high. But again, I think the dollar could also make a new high and we could send it lower off this. Mm-hmm. And then look at here. This is a 5-minute fair value gap. Look at these 5-minute candle bodies. Respecting it. It's another reason why you can't really go long yet, because on the 5-minute, if you wanted to, say, take a 5-minute entry into this 5-minute fair value gap, your stop would have to be up there. Again, so I feel like this was really the only entry that anyone could have, entered on and got 5 handles already. I don't think it was the best though, because look, we didn't continue downside yet. And if you had, say you had more than one contract on, you'd really have to have your stop above here. So you'd be like sitting in all this like drawdown, and that'd just be mentally and emotionally exhausting. It's not a whole lot of drawdown, but it's just kind of annoying when you're to be sitting in a trade for so long. Like 30 minutes. 30 minutes in a trade, and like half of it's like kind of red. But you would have got your 5 handles, but I mean, nothing in here I thought was even valid for silver bullet entry. So this. And hey, there's going to be days where like it happens, but it wasn't obvious, and it's just like you don't need to get it then. Like, don't be too hard on yourself. We have 2 minutes left in the 10 o'clock hour. I'm going to stay on. I am really curious to see where price goes after this. And, if we do break above this swing high, if we're a few minutes out of the past 11, depending on how it looks, I'll enter it right now, because we've spent so much time forming this narrative, and it'd be nice if we could capitalize on it. I wouldn't call it, it can't be a silver bullet, but just weird. When you look at the 5 minute on the dollar, I feel like it wants to go higher. I don't really like this, the way the dollar is like topping right now, for it to like go lower. If it was to go lower, I wish it didn't turn around like that. I wish it could have had like, a final high and then broke structure. Okay, we're working our way to the top of this fair value gap. Let's see. Again, I want to see some thrust through this high. And I want it to close. NASDAQ, woof, already ahead of ES. No wonder. No shock. Okay, I like that. I want to close. I want it to close. It's enough. It did close. So I'll be looking to enter on a fair value gap. I'll feel really safe if the 5 minute closes above that high. again, and remember how I've been talking about how ES and NASDAQ have been they're a little decoupled right now, and what that can do in terms of probabilities is, since it's lower probability, in like a more precise condition, this body closing just a tick above these highs, making a little fair value gap like this, that would be enough to, like, you could enter there and be confident that it will deliver, because if it does this, then we do that. If it closes above that high, then we should be able to do that. But when the markets are a little more decoupled and the probabilities are a little lower, you just demand more confirmation, because notice how the dollar isn't dropping really. So like it could be doing that and then like rip against you to the downside. So like a 5-minute close above this high, that makes me feel good. Even if, we have to watch it, say, enter into this fair value gap, leave, just so we can watch the 5-minute close, there'll probably be another PDA rate to enter in on. And then we can have the assurance that it's in kind of like a buy program. See, after coming up and getting above this high, I'd want to see it come, maybe lower and then just go. I want to see it take off. NASDAQ's taken off, but there was not really an entry on NASDAQ, it looks like. Okay, dollar's dropping. Going up. I like that. I want to see it close strong. Okay, not bad, not ideal, not bad. I like how the dollar's now getting lower. We have one more candle. This is the last candle of this 5-minute print. So it looks like we will be above that high, which I like. Dollar making a lower low. I like the idea of what's happening here, because this is going to also form a fair value gap as this 5-minute candle closes. I would enter on this, and then you could put your stop right below this order block. Good stop, tight stop. See, it could go without us. If it does, that's fine. Dollar's making some lower lows. NASDAQ is making high of the day. Okay. Okay, I like what we're doing here. Okay, so if we do form these breakaway gaps, that just shows price has a real willingness to get to where it's going. So I like that. I would move that there. Let's see. Okay, on the 5-minute, you have the high, low, higher, high, candle break. Let's kind of call that a little bit of a breaker. You also have the low, high, lower, low. the 15-minute. Cool. So see what I'm talking about with narrative? I had this upside narrative because of the higher time frame. So I'm going to not enter these possible scalpy conditions to the bottom on the chance that, you know, we have an alignment with our higher time frame, because the higher time frame narrative will deliver more. So let's see if we can get in this. I'm gonna call that a breaker. Go put that at the top there. Yeah, so you know, you could have, somebody could have said that they entered off this and caught that ride up. That's cool. I wanted a little more confirmation. And if the risk is we don't get an entry, I'm okay with that. Let's see if we can. This is hard. Wait, so let's measure out this price one. Something that I think I need to work on a little more is like identifying breakaway gaps. And because like right now I'm like, okay, so do I want to enter in immediately because we ran so quickly? I don't want to miss a move where we do, say, an institutional order flow entry drill and then leave. I don't want to miss it by, say, trying to like put my entry at consequent encroachment. But then, you know, if you put your stop this high, like it could retrace into this fair value gap. And I know ICT has talked about like I'm gonna have to go back and find, I think it was a video, I forget where. He talked about identifying when and where breakaway gaps will form, and a lot of it is like in balanced price ranges. So like see how much time we spent in here delivering price. It won't return back to this because it's a balanced price range versus right here. See, this was the high. So you have this sliver between this high and that where it only delivered buy side. So in theory, we'd want to see it come back down, deliver sell side in the form of a wick, stop at the top of that, and then continue. But look at the dollar. Dollar is made that low, but now it's kind of retracing. I still like this. I like this. We'll see how it plays out. And this will be annoying because your stop, we're probably gonna have to have a decent sized stop, because you could put it right at the bottom of there. But again, on this like 5 minute, for example, imagine if like the 5 minute candle wants to wick into this breaker. You know, it could wick all the way down there and then like just like close. I'm watching the dollar. I don't like how the dollar is going up. see how this pans out. Put like stop all the way down there. You know what you probably really want to do is you want to set it here, and if you do get stopped out, just have the confidence to enter in. So like if you have like an aggressive wick, but then the candle body closes in a very appropriate place, then re-enter. That's annoying because that's technically like an institutional order flow entry drill. That's why if you really want it, you got to put it a tick past. But I'm okay. So this, say we keep going a little higher. This, the bottom of this candle can be the bottom of this 5 minute fair value gap. And then I'll just say, okay, I'm going to see if the next 5 minute candle wants to dig into that. Whoa, almost spilled my coffee. Okay, we're waiting. I'm not used to trading in the 11 o'clock hour, but I just had this like higher time frame narrative played out, and I could tell it was going to play out, so I want to see it. Yeah, again, like I was saying, on the 15 minute and the 1 hour, like this could easily just be a higher low after, making this bottom in the London session, which is why I didn't really want to try and take any shorts under that opening range gap, because I was betting on this. Couldn't really find an entry, but I think the targets for this move, I'd be targeting these highs right here. So I'm okay with like it on the 1 minute. It looks like we've come a long way already, but again, if you measure out this price swing, we're still below, that's like right at 50%. So I don't know, maybe we missed it. That's okay. I'm also not going to just try and enter on not going to try and get too hasty and enter on just like any fair value gap. I mean, it could like form a fair value gap here, enter, and then just take off. I'm just going to demand a little more. Like I think, the 5 minute could warrant a pullback, and I'd rather get it here. Watching the dollar, still I don't like how the dollar hasn't really, like I would have wished this swing low broke below this swing low. I think the dollar still looks a little bullish. Okay, so we just got the start. Just got this new 5 minute candle. Again, like it could really take off from here. But gonna wait for a deeper discount entry. Yeah, there's a good a good depiction of the 1050 to 1110 macro though. Got it right there. NASDAQ shooting. Take that off for now. I'm gonna look at the dollar real quick. So, as for the dollar, I'm looking at the 1 hour. I'm going to compare the 1 hour and the dollar to the 1 hour and the indices. I like how we made this 1, 2, 3, three highs. So I really don't want to see this high right here on this 5-minute dollar taken. I want to see this dollar hourly start to turn over. Again, you know, this hour just started, but I want, that's kind of the narrative I'm building off of. I would prefer if the dollar was kind of rolling over a little more. I don't like how it's so close to that high, that daily high. Because on ES, so ES, we just yesterday visited this daily fair value gap. We could like kind of close a little lower. Like it can, you know, remember it can spend time in this daily fair value gap. Look, our body, our open, the open of today even respected this daily fair value gap. So yeah, I'm hoping we can get an entry and then an expansion higher. This is yesterday's high. I'd like to at least target that, or the 50% consequent encroachment of that daily wick. Probably be the first target to the upside, but we're not even in it yet, so let's cool the jets right there. Like I could even see us coming down and touching the top of this hourly down close candle, which should be line up pretty nicely with this fair value gap. It would kind of come down, stop us out, but I'd be willing to re-enter if we respected all these little 1 minute PD arrays, and we were going off of the assumption that off the higher time frame narrative that it's an hourly candle. Well, I mean, that would bring us into lunch. I don't think I'll be here at lunch, going into 12. So that's my cutoff is 12. Okay, we got the open of a new 15-minute candle. So this one closed above that high. I like that. So I like this entry because it lines up with that 15-minute swing high. So it'd be kind of like us coming back down, touching the top of that high, going higher. Remember, time of day is really important. So if this exact setup was happening, say like in the middle of a macro time, we could deliver better. That's just something to keep in mind, not to get too attached on this like trade idea, because the algorithm waits for time. So it's going to wait for the right time to come take this buy side, and like 11:30 isn't really a significant macro time. So it could like kind of come down here and then just decide not to run that buy side because the time is not aligned with the price. Yeah, like I was saying too, we could, you could just enter that fair value gap and send it, but I'll pass on that. It doesn't really look like NASDAQ delivered in the form of a fair value gap entry either. It was kind of the same thing where you would have had to have entered like right off this consolidation. Just one thing to point out that I've been saying the past few days is you'll notice the best entries and when price really moves is after like 15-minute or hourly swings are taken. So It's not the prettiest, but this is a 15-minute swing low. Took it here, expanded. So when prices like this comes this high above my entry, and we've also kind of printed, a few 5-minute candles. If it does come back into here, I want to see it come in and leave quickly, because I want it to look like we're dropping into a discount just to send it higher. I don't want it to kind of like spend time in this fair value gap. I want it to be going down to that inefficiency just to balance it. Or just for the sake of, going to that inefficiency and then moving away quickly. I'm really hooked on this buy side narrative. That's why I'm like, if I just walk away right now and I like come back in the afternoon and I see it delivered and I just spent the whole morning talking about it, I'll be bummed. And like on the 15-minute and the 5-minute, it really is like delivering how I'd want it to. See. Okay, so we just printed a pretty short 15-minute candle. So in terms of like stops and like downside, ICT says 3 PD arrays violated. So that'd be a big stop. It'd be 1. I guess this little fair value gap 2, 3. You have to have a stop all the way down here. But again, kind of going back to what I said about where breakaway gaps form, and I'm not super consistent with like calling those out. But from my understanding, it is something similar to like we delivered a lot of price inside, like below this fair value gap. We delivered price efficiently, so when it moves through it, it doesn't need to come back down. Whereas like say the gap between this high in this down quote, the top of this fair value gap, only buy side was delivered for like all day. Okay, so the dollar is going higher, but what I'm going to want to see is price get sensitive around this fair value gap. See us entering on the 15-minute. I want to see the 5-minute enter. Coincide with the 1-minute entry. I'm also curious. This is the longest I've waited for an entry. But it makes sense because I'm really formulating this narrative off the 15-minute. So we're going to have to wait for a 15-minute candle to come. Okay. And we're in. Let's see what price does. Okay, so now I'm going to be looking for the dollar to really turn around here. Again, I am a little sketched out at the way it's topping. I don't really like this pattern for a reversal. Like the fact that I made the high, low, this higher high, I think it should have broke below this low after failing to take this high. So the fact that it didn't, well, what did it? Yeah, well, it did it here. The fact that it did it here and didn't continue and then it came up and makes me think it might want to go up and clear this buy side before going lower. I don't know how the indices will react if the dollar takes that buy side. 'Cause they're not one for one, you know. Okay, so on the 5-minute, we had that 5-minute candle print and entered in like we said. I'll feel really comfortable once we get above this swing high on the 1-minute, and if we do it with some intention. So yeah. Come down to the top of that breaker. I like where the stop is. I think we could get stopped out and I would still think it's going up. But that's the risk I want to put on, and I would wait for like a better lower. I would like re-enter lower possibly. I'm going to get that entry off. Okay. See, body stopped at the top of the breaker. Let's watch how this plays out. Remember the whole time thing I talked about too. We're in a random time, so like price works off of price and time. So if it's not time for the algorithm to run for liquidity, it won't. So yeah, we could have the entry, we could have the setup, but if it's not happening in a relevant time, then cool. I want us to get above this swing and close. I want it to close above that and continue. I like how the 5-minute candle body opened above, wicked down, and then it's printing up close now. The dollar looked like it came above that little high, so I'm wanting to see the dollar turn around now. It's 11:38. Like, you know what could happen? We could just like literally, I've seen this happen a few times and it's pretty frustrating. We could be waiting for the 11:50 macro. I guess there's not that much time. I was gonna say I could do one of those things where it just like keeps wicking and it like goes sideways and then does what it wants to do. I hope that's not the case. Because remember, time and price. It's all about time and price. I want to see this be like an order block. So I would be watching if price returns down to that. I think it can. I think, like I said, I think we could continue to just like touch this breaker until this macro time. That would frustrate me. But I would like it if price yeah, because remember, low resistance is going to come. Look at these, the macro time. It lines up with the macro time. Damn, we're really working for this one. We are really working for this one. I wouldn't want to see it. I think if we took this swing lower right here, we'd be going a lot lower. I want to see the dollar get a little heavier to the downside. I want us to close candle above this swing high. And continue. I think that same play panned out on NASDAQ. Let's see what it delivered on that. Yeah, we would have, dang. You would have got your 10 handles on NASDAQ already versus we haven't got our 5 on ES yet. See, that's what I liked about NASDAQ is when you actually had the right entry, it's like the 10 handles were like that. Nope. Okay, come on, dollar. Help us out here. I'm gonna move this to below that mean threshold. I want to see that act as an order block. Okay, now the big question, do we take the first 5 handles or do we wait for our higher time frame target? It's a tricky one. Again, I'm excited for when we start getting this account at a drawdown, because what we'll be doing is we'll be entering this with more contracts, and then we can take profit at the first. We can start mapping out profit TP levels, and that's when it gets really exciting because your equity curve starts going up a lot faster. So right there is 5 handles. I think if we really do get there, we'll probably go up and touch that high. So I'll leave that. But we already got 10 on NASDAQ already. Hmm. Fifteen minutes looking good. Would get a little nervous if we broke below this order block. If we wicked into this fair value gap and touched it and like popped off of it, that'd be fine. But if we started closing candles pretty low, I would not like that. Gonna put this a tick above. So now we're playing risk free. Nice. Look at that. Got that 15-minute candle close. That looks good. Come on, dollar. I want the dollar to drop. Okay, let's see. If the dollar looked heavy, I would probably enter again off that, but I don't know. Not now. Dollar's just too close to these highs. I don't know. Okay, now that it did that, I want to see it expand to the upside. Remember, time and price. Time and price. Go. Like, I think we could have this 5-minute wick. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it came down, touched that, and went higher. But we're getting so close to lunch, and I really don't want to be trading during the lunch hour. So, okay, dollar. Okay, dollar. Yeah, I don't really. probably gonna get stopped out. I could see it coming down to like back to this order block. So, like mean threshold, or like the mean threshold, the consequent encroachment of that 5-minute wick, back down like right around here before sending it higher. I don't really want to be in this trade anymore. I think the dollar is what's really stopping it. As you can see, it doesn't want to make any lower lows really. So that's that. Because if it was low resistance, it wouldn't have closed below this for value gap. Maybe it's saving these highs for the afternoon session. The draw is definitely up. Oh, okay. I like that. Come on, get above this high. What, I waited for the 1150 macro. Come on. Ugh. NASDAQ is taking that high. Right there. Could have been us. Could have been us. Come on. It's not even like we haven't gotten our 5 handles yet, so. Okay, dollar's going down. Thing is too, I have the take profit right there, but I just feel like we've had this like small 5-minute consolidation. When it leaves this area, it's gonna, if it goes and takes this, it's gonna like take it. It's gonna be like bam. No, come on. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist myself, so I love the ICT theory that an algorithm drives the market, because it's like, look at these 4 highs and then right here, like how you gonna say a computer isn't behind this when it's perfect comes up perfect, like, oh, the perfect amount of people of buying pressure just 5 times in a row. It was the perfect amount of sellers and buyers to bring it to that price. And then he said something once that, like, because I listen to like a lot of stock podcasts, and I've never heard anyone even ask this question, like, how much money or how many buyers does it take to move price like a handle or like a specific quantity? Because if it is pressure, like if it is based off of how many people are buying and selling, they should, like, I don't know, people on Wall Street, like people that are like hedge fund shit, like they should be like, if that's their entire career and they're managing millions of billions of dollars, like you'd think they would have figured out how much, like exactly how many buyers it takes to move like a stock or an indice, like this many points, based off of like the market cap. Like nobody's out here, they just say buying and selling pressure. It's just like this vague term. Okay, so NASDAQ looks like it's about to take these highs. Yes. There we go. You got it. You can do it. Move that up there. I think that was our 5 handles technically. If we come and get stopped out, I'll be pissed. No, it's 475. NASDAQ. Okay, so notice how NASDAQ took that swing high and ES didn't, so we have an SMT divergence right now. You definitely want your stop at like break even or more if you see this happen. Again, it's just one of the downsides of trading when the market's a little decoupled. Low probability, so you will really want to be defensive. NASDAQ just took that high, so NASDAQ, we can turn around right now. It's frustrating because look, this was that entry on NASDAQ, and we would have entered on the top of this fair value gap, and we would have had a nice ride. Would have had a nice ride. Would have panned out to the high end. Then I would have looked like such a good streamer, and the subscribers would be flowing in. Okay, you can see the dollar came down, made that lower, took out that low, but now it's coming back up. Again, just to reiterate, these aren't high probability conditions, so don't get too hooked on anything. I think we're definitely about to get stopped out now. I'm losing a read on what's supposed to happen. with NASDAQ taking this high, I think we should have taken that high. The fact that the dollar made this low and is now coming back to reverse, it's just been sideways since 10. I don't really have a good read on what's going on, so I'm going to leave that there. If it wants to come up and take this, then our theory panned out well, but I think it could not do that.
Okay, I found this on the web.
No, Siri. Wow. Over 2 hours on this live stream. Sheesh. Oh no. It's from here. I also wouldn't want to just exit right now because it's like, so 5 handles is the low hanging fruit. It's really like not a lot of movement. Like you can get lucky and with like a 5 handle price swing. So I'd rather get stopped out than like settle for less than 5 handles. And like I wouldn't consider this stop settling for less than 5 handles because I just think if we break this low, then we're going low, and I'd rather not have this trade be red at all. I do wish we had more than one contract on though, because I'd be really excited because I think this 5-minute consolidation, it's kind of a 15-minute consolidation too. You have this 15 doji, you have this one. As the retail traders would say, there's a lot of pressure through this, breaking through this wall, this barrier. So I think it could really pop. That'd be the next level. Let's go do it. Do it. Okay. I will now spend the rest of the day. Yeah, see? See? It is a nice little dopamine hit though. That whole trade was like 2 hours in the making. That's what I was waiting for from the moment we broke above this high. I was waiting for that. And we got it. And that also just shows the benefit of waiting for your narrative, even if it's not really being told in price yet. Again, we were watching all this drawdown, and I was waiting for the buy side narrative to play out, because on the higher time frame, again, we're looking at the daily. As long as we're like above this daily for value gap, this orange level right here, like it looks like we're printing an up close day. So you want to catch this is how we're catching the daily range, is by not trying to short when we think it's going to be an up close day, going long. Even if you have to wait an hour and a half for your setup. Yeah, so now that we're above that, I think we'll probably get up to here. And yeah, so let's see what the account balance is at. We're just shy of bringing this bad boy. If that trade earlier this week actually triggered my take profit, we would be back at break even. But once we start getting out of break even, I'll be putting on more contracts. And then when we have moves like this, what we'll do is we'll take the first 5 handles and then we'll just let it run to here. And we'll, what I'll do is we'll enter in with 2, take profit at the first 5 handles. Probably, depending on what the price looks like, I'll either move the stop loss to 5 handles if it like retraces, so we, or I'll keep it at break even. And then what we'll do is we'll just wait for this, because usually when you get to this point and like it's proven that our draw on liquidity is correct. So we can, once it's like confirmed that we're on sides, the chances of you reaching those next profit targets, depending on what those profit targets look like and how far away they are, it can move another like 10 handles. So, and that's how like your equity curve will, our equity curve will start to move a lot faster. Yeah, I appreciate you guys for hanging out, sticking around. I will be on in the afternoon. But again, walking away up today. We're walking away up on the week, so I'm not gonna really take anything in the afternoon unless it's like screaming. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.